Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. All protocols duly respected. I am delighted and excited to be here this morning to moderate this stellar panel to discuss the theme of this year's conference, which is reassessing the governance dynamics in Nigeria's transition to enduring development and national prosperity. We have all witnessed recently the heightened demand for good governance, hashtag bad governance. And I'm not sure that that is over yet. However, we are all stakeholders. And we're here this morning to come up with solutions as we discuss this theme. We know how difficult it has been. Nigerians have been lamenting high cost of living, fuel, food inflation, just to mention those two. But without much ado, I will be directing my first question to Mrs. Awosika. Nigeria continues to suffer economic headwinds. What policies or reforms do you think can drive Nigeria towards sustainable economic growth and national prosperity? When Nigeria prospers, all of us will flourish. Thank you.
Okay, that's a very full question, because that's anybody that has the full answer for you will solve Nigeria's problem. So the policies are not the issues. That's the honest truth, because we have the right policies in place in many ways across different areas. But we must be able to deal with honesty in terms of the execution of some of our policies. And we must have a truthful conversation. Because, you know, I know it's tough for all of us to comprehend some of the issues we're dealing with right now, but some of them are real for us and necessary for us. Because for a long time, politicians pushed the can down the road in terms of taking the right decisions because they're trying to impress the electorate. And therefore, issues like removing subsidy on oil, on fuel, and all of that became a matter that we've pushed now to the point where we can no longer afford it and nobody is willing to loan us any money to support that. But the question you need to ask yourself, how did we even get there? For a country that produces oil, what did we need in order to avoid a situation like that? We need refineries to work. Do we have refineries? Yes. Do they work? No. Why do they not work? Questions we must answer. Do we have power for the product? I've been in manufacturing for over 35 years. Do we have power? When I was starting as a 25 going on 26-year-old girl, power was a problem. I'm a 61-year-old woman, power is still a problem. Something is wrong. Now, do we have the capacity to do this? Yes, we do. So if we can be nice about all of these things and try and postulate all the economic theories, but our biggest challenge is lack of will, lack of commitment to doing what is right for our people, and corruption. End of story. If we analyze all our budgets year in, year out over all of these years, we provided, I don't know the number for power for so many years, but we don't have the result and we're calm. See, this is it. When the people are calm, then it's okay, because it means we're comfortable. We kept providing money to repair the refineries. They haven't produced the result. A long time ago, our refineries should have been commercial, because any economic part that is handled and run by government institution will always have its limitation and its challenges. But if we had privatized them over so many years ago for the right reasons and to the right people, a lot of issues will be resolved. The only reason an MTN exists and we still have the telco industry thriving and all the benefits we have developed from it thereafter is because from day one, President Obasanjo made it a commercial venture. It was private sector that led and drove it. And what we had as a government agency, which was NITEL, they allowed it to die because it was clear that it could not deliver on it. And individual companies are competing amongst themselves to try to deliver value to us. I use that as an example. So it's in deciding what do we want. It's in having the will to do the right things. It's in choosing the right leaders who have the grace, the commitment, who feel a sense of accountability to our people. And it's in our people ourselves, knowing that somebody gives me a bag of rice, gives me this and does that. Is somebody giving you from your own bank account change so that you can spend? But the person controls your wealth. So individuals, we as a people must decide where we want to go, what we want to do. We must then seek to fight for a system that will allow us to execute the policies that we have. Because the policies, as far as I'm concerned, every policy that will save Nigeria is in some document somewhere, in all of the government agencies that we have. We need to find the right ones, act right, put the right people in the right place, and allow things to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hear you loud and clear. For us to have good governance, we must be committed, there must be accountability, there must be transparency, and we must know where we want to go. And so, taking it from there, Madam President, I would also like to get your perspective on the reforms to create a governance system. What key institutional reforms are necessary, in your view, to create a governance system?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. So, as we all know, the chairman has sort of given us a wonderful summary of what the issues are and what we can all do. Because at the end of the day, it's a sum total of what each and every one of us also does in our own spheres of influence. Coming to the issue of institutional reforms, there is a critical segment in this nation that that the government needs to pay serious attention to in terms of reforming that entire ecosystem, and that's our civil service. We need to institutionalize professionalism and good governance within the civil service space. At the end of the day, when you move around, when you have things to do, when you're talking about ease of doing business, it's still the civil servants you would meet at every point, right? If they create bottlenecks, definitely, it's going to be counterproductive to ease of doing business, to, foreign investors and even local investors. So I think that essentially we need to ensure that our civil service is well structured in such a way that it is professionally driven, and they also understand the need to have sound, governance principles, knowing that there is critical touch points within the, value chain. Another thing is the effective regulatory framework. I think the chairman also mentioned that. We also need to be low on short-termism when we are putting policies in place. We need to have a long-term outlook. Government needs to have a long-term outlook, where there's this popular saying that the politicians think about the next election, but true leaders think about the next generation. So it's really important that government pays attention to ensuring well thought out policies that wouldn't end up being policy errors, and then we have somersaults, and then there's so much, discoordination and all of that. People can't plan that way. Businesses can't plan, individuals can't plan. So we need to ensure that, policies and frameworks that guide those policies are well thought out and are enduring and sustainable. Okay, I'll just, I know you're already indicating that I should.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, thank you, because we're racing against time. So thank you for taking that hint. So I hear you too saying that the civil service needs to be reformed, and that regulations need to be put in place. So quickly, moving to Prof. We've been discussing in Nigeria, even the market woman is talking about restructuring And I tie it to what Madam President has just said now. It means different things to different people when they are talking about this restructuring. However, there are different perspectives, like I've said. So the politicians, the academics, you will hear them talk vehemently about it. How can Nigeria's federal structure be reshaped to better drive inclusive national development?
Thank you. May I ask how many minutes I have?
2.
2 minutes. Thank you.
So summarize.
I'll use a fraction of that in human fact to say that our chairman, Mr. Awosika, is not a motivational speaker. She speaks on issues that may motivate the wise, inspire others, and for some, they'll fall on bare ground. So to answer you, first reason is that we have to be true to our name. Our name at the end of the day is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that means recognizing diversity, recognizing that we can compete and cooperate. Every region should be able to determine or state what is important to it. I like to give factual examples in an audience like this. Every Yoruba man has to be grateful to a man called Stephen Oluwole Awokoya, born 1913. In 1952, he wrote the white paper on free and compulsory education in Western Nigeria, kowtowing the Action Group's agenda. What that meant is that the West spent close to 35% of their budget educating its people for free. Eastern region spent 26%, which is 4% above UN prescribed minimum. Northern Nigeria spent 4%, and the federal government spent 6%. Source, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. They're not ethnically driven. Fast forward 50 years from then, and you see the benefits. You see some states are highly educated, some states are said to be marginalized in education, and thus needing quota system. This is the benefit of federalism. You determine what is important to you, you allocate resources to it, and you grow according to your pace. Secondly, there will be economic development on the basis of the needs of the state. And so many much more, so that I comply with the 2 minutes. I'll pause.
Thank you very much. We should, as Nigerians, be true to our name, recognize diversity and equality. When there's no fairness, there's no justice, there can't be peace. Okay, so let me move to another area that has eaten deep into the fabric of the Nigerian society, and this is corruption. Ma, you touched on it while you were speaking. I would just like you to tell us how corruption has hindered Nigeria's path to prosperity. How would you describe corruption at various levels of government, and how it has hindered the path to prosperity? Are there any practical solutions?
I think, if I ask someone like Prof. or my brother Tunde Busari, they will tell you because they're the lawyers in the room. We probably have laws that support what we should do to people that are corrupt. But if there is no execution of the law in any form, then people will take liberty. So when people do stuff and they don't get punished, others take a cue. Because then you instruct them that it's okay to do whatever you do. It's the reason why you train your children and you have a punishment mechanism for the things that they do wrong. And if you leave a child, even at an early age, and you don't correct, then they will understand that to be that it's okay to do. So for us, corruption can be corrected in 1 year of dealing with as many examples as you can. Having the proper legal system, having a court system that works, having the effective execution of the law as it exists. We're good at writing the paper. Where we fail is at executing it because of self-interest. And we all know that the most expensive price we pay every day in this country comes from corruption. Because when a minister in charge of building roads or building hospitals or doing something doesn't deliver that value to the people, we don't actually count the real cost of corruption. We think of it in terms of money, but it's not. Every person that dies on a bad road through accidents and stuff, it has cost of lives. Every sick person that goes to the hospital and is not able to receive treatment because the hospital doesn't exist. There's an accident on a highway and the second layer of being able to get emergency care doesn't exist. Someone that doesn't need to die anywhere else dies. So there are real costs. When it gets to our family, when it impacts us or affects us, if we don't cry out, that's when we usually cry out. But the issue is, do we ourselves believe in the laws against corruption? Because many people are happy for their corrupt uncle to bless them. No. So there's social issues that attach to corruption. If it's your family member that is benefiting from the corruption, it's good for your family. But at the end of the day, the cost of corruption is destruction. I've been in manufacturing, like I said earlier, for 35 years. I can't write with pain what it has been to be involved in a productive sector. I can write with pain when a government makes a policy and says, we're banning this sector because we want local investment in it. And you go out, you bring international investors, you put your local, and Nigerians invest in Nigeria more than outsiders. So we keep talking about foreign investors, but Nigerian investors have more money at play. You do all of that, and then what happens? The guy who smuggles the same thing that you're supposed to be able to provide into the market at a lower cost, paying no duty and all of that, eats your market share. And the customs guy who supports him does not understand the cost of his action. So until we create the value chain of corruption and make people see clearly that it's not just that act, it is what the act destroys or what it creates. And we begin to see the personal impact in our lives, we cannot solve corruption. But there's no will. So once we have a will, then we can solve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hear you. We have laws, but those laws governing corruption is implemented selectively. However, I would like to take Prof's perspective on the issue of corruption.
Well, thank you. In addition to what the chairman has said, you know, you can tackle a problem from the end or the beginning. And one illustration is all bad people will end up in hell. That's the end tackling. It could disincentivize some people from being bad. But you can also tackle it from the beginning, evangelism. But let's come to Robert Kliger, the professor, gave a formula that has been practicalized, and I believe in it. And you can write it if you will. He says C equals M plus D minus T. Corruption for C equals monopoly plus discretion minus transparency. Whenever you have these ingredients, like NITEL, you have monopoly of provision of service. If you dislocate that formula by saying minus M, break the monopoly, nobody needs to bribe any NITEL official anymore not to toss your line. You all remember what tossing your line means. Temporarily out of service for the Gen Z or X. Now, add some transparency to the decision making. Illustration of this point. You used to be able to give money to some Lagos state government official to value your property lower so that the consent fee percentage will be lower. What did we do by putting transparency, right? And removing the discretion. Say Ikoyi is 10,000 naira per square meter. It means you no longer need to talk to the government official. Once you have your map, you know your price. So once you remove that discretion in the government officials' powers, you reduce corruption. Another thing is to add the T, transparency, illustration, GSM auction bidding. Dr. Ernest Ndukwe made it live on TV. Everybody watched who was bidding what. Where could they have been corrupt inside of live on channels, AITV, NTA? How would you be corrupt with the whole world watching how you arrived at the decision? Absolutely not. So, and this can be applied in your private, because there's private sector corruption. Let's not focus only on government, right? There's private sector corruption in many ways. If you, to your procurement team, and let me just ask the audience a question, Salah time, Christmas time, who gets the most hampers and baskets between these two groups? The accounts paying section and the research unit. Accounts. Great. So reduce monopoly of procurement decisions in your company, and you will see lower corruption. So this is, I think that we can deal with corruption from the preventive perspective, right? A lot of transparency. In terms of the law, the chairman said it all. Implement the law. Short for it. There's no need to give a speech about it. But I would suggest something. Bifurcate the powers of investigation from prosecution. I say this with all confidence. The man who investigates should give the file to another person to determine whether there's basis to prosecute. We copied this from the United States and England, and that's exactly what they do. You don't investigate and indict by yourself because there's abuse of power potentials in it. I'll pause here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give our panel a round of applause.